Well, welcome to Dr. Z PhD interviews. And today's special guest of interesting and inspiring people that having a privilege actually to interview is Michelle Cirar. Is that right?
That is
I'm
correct.
always skeptical how I pronounce people's last name. So Michelle Cirar. Michelle is an amazing, proud parent. Michelle is also an amazing human being and a person that I find has a very beautiful and striking, what I call rock star beauty. So Michelle, welcome to the interviews. To start off, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you, what you do, what's your background, and where you find yourself right now in your life.
Sure. So thank you very much, Dr. Z, for inviting me to this interview. I appreciate the time. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I identify as female. I am a transgender woman. I transitioned about 3 years ago, so kind of late in life. But again, I have identified myself as transgender woman. I'm a native here, born and raised here in Los Angeles, California, and lived in the area my entire life. As for what I do from a career standpoint, I'm a vice president and director of a Fortune 500 company. I run several project teams and have a wonderful organization that I work for that has been incredibly supportive throughout my transition and afterwards as well. So love what I do. I oversee, again, a couple of groups and I'm very happy to do that.
That's amazing. That's amazing to hear because so many people, as you know, have so many concerns and fears about coming out of their work, not having their employers accept them. And I think that's changing. Would you say that's changing pretty rapidly, especially at least in California?
I would say probably California, as it typically does, spearheads and starts a lot of programs. My company is an East Coast-based company. Before I came out, I did some research on the company's intranet site and very easily found the guide they had published, the Transgender Guide for Managers and Employees. So it was already written out, it was already developed. We have an internal program for the LGBTQ community of things like that. And then being transgender, there was a whole program on what to do, from getting announcements made to the staff, to getting your badge changed and so on. So it was really well done. They did a phenomenal job. And I think from a representation standpoint, I think it's really happening all over the world. I think the world has become more open to it over the past several years. I think any of the companies or corporations have really adopted policies to make it a lot easier for individuals coming out as being trans, as well as managers and staff for, what's appropriate for pronouns and such. So I think it has changed in several years. And I think that was really part of my coming out as well, of making it easier for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's always inspiring to see people who still keep their employment, where the companies are doing well and being very embracing and encompassing. I think it's always great to see that. Now, you and I are not strangers. You and I have known each other for a number of years.
Yeah.
And one of the things that always strikes me about you is your overall positivity that you generate, and especially your sense of confidence. You strike me as a woman that holds herself with so much confidence. My question to you is that something you always had?
I had confidence in what I was doing and the job I performed. I didn't have confidence in who I am, who I was before I transitioned. I tended to focus on the task at hand, to kind of bury myself in what was going on and kind of escape who I was. From a confidence standpoint, from a presentation standpoint of how I looked and appeared, no, I was not always that way. As my transition began 3 years ago, and as I've gone through the process, I've become absolutely more confident in who I am. I love presenting who I am, and I'm absolutely confident. And I think part of it as well was in my mindset, or my brain, if you will, I was always in a fog. I never had the confidence of who I really was, and I tended to suppress that. Since my coming out and my transition, it really has clarified that mentally and really instilled confidence within myself. And I think that projects well outside.
Seems you would attribute your gender evolution as the biggest contributor to your confidence. Is that true?
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. What do you recommend for viewers who are watching it, especially people who are struggling with confidence? It's actually a twofold question. So on one hand, what do you recommend to people who have not started yet and are struggling with confidence? And the second question is, what do you recommend for women who are evolving, who are transitioning and are struggling with confidence in the midst of transition?
So for those that have not come out yet, that have been confirmed with gender dysphoria, because I always tell individuals that approach me, what to start with. And I said, have you talked to a therapist or psychologist or anyone that you can really vent and get your feelings identified? And, assuming that that's been confirmed, the hardest part of a transition isn't the surgeries, isn't buying clothes. It's really, to me, it was coming out. It was telling people your story, whether it was at work, friends, family, whoever, kids, whoever it was. So, if that's your concern, your friends and family better than anyone else. I think you have to be true to yourself and be authentic to be happy. And although it's extremely hard to come out, it's also very liberating when you do. It's kind of a, I did it, and they're okay with me. I'm not saying everyone will come along for the ride with you. My experience, almost everyone did. I was pleasantly surprised. So I would say for those that have not come out yet, if coming, and just to begin your transition, if coming out is your biggest concern, you really need to, I would suggest really need to approach that carefully of who you notify and work through it as well. For those that have begun their transition, stay strong, stay authentic to yourself, stay true, continue with it. It is absolutely difficult at the beginning of your transition, but it really does get easier as you go. As more and more people are told and accept you for who you really are, it's the grasp and the hold of the caring of those around you that help you with your transition and really make and really build, on that confidence. So don't stop that journey. If you're absolutely sure who you are, stay authentic, stay true to course, and become who you really are.
That's great. Now, I personally find confidence being incredibly instrumental for people who are transitioning. There's so much that we can say about the confidence, especially in the beginning stages where people are just piecing things together. For those especially who are interested in possibility, I know I have to say it so many times, possibility is not everybody's goal, and that's great. But for those who are set that as a goal, that becomes very important to carry that confidence. In what way do you think for you, confidence in a way helped you throughout your own evolution?
I think for me, not coming out didn't really provide confidence, it provided support. But me coming out and really identifying to myself that yes, I am a transgender woman, and accepting that and embracing it started the building of confidence of myself personally. Once you do that, at least in my situation, once I was able to do that and own it, I think you really need to own things in life. That really instilled confidence within me, and and I think that projects as well. So again, for me, it was really confirming that yes, that's who I am, but suppressing it for years, own it, accept it, begin the process, whatever that may be to someone. In my case, it was physical transformation as well as coming out, and that will help with your confidence.
You mentioned in there that for you personally, coming out was the most difficult, challenging thing you had to do. And you actually mentioned that surgeries is not a difficult thing. And for some, it could be reversed. For you, what was it about coming out that made it so difficult?
So coming out is, and I was on the edge of coming out or not being around. It was pretty severe. So I made the decision of let me come out and see who comes along with the ride for me. And when I say the ride, I mean my life and my journey and my future. So I made the decision is live, come out, and hopefully everyone or most people will come along with me. And again, I was pleasantly surprised at how that really came across. How many people really stayed with me. So, in my situation, it was really the only choice to live and to survive. Transitioning is not a choice. It's what you have to do to survive.
Right.
And I was able to transition. I survived, and I'm here today.
Yes. And I think that's such a clear distinction that a lot of lay people, I would say, cis people and otherwise make between transition, assuming that it's a choice. And I always make analogy, choice such as you and I make, put on a particular dress, which is not. It's a choice. It is still a choice, but it's a choice arising out of necessity. And the necessity can be as drastic as it's actually between life and death. And it sounds like for you, it was that situation was either you come out or either you won't be here.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is down to you come out and be authentic and be happy. You only get one chance in life, I believe. until you go back to that great universe beyond. And so embrace life, enjoy it, be authentic, be happy. You can have all the money in the world and all the career opportunities in the world, but if you're not happy with yourself, it really projects out to everyone around you. So you really need to do that and move forward in your life. I think it's incredibly important.
That's another thing about you, apart from confidence, is this positivity. I don't think I've ever seen you, and I've seen you many times in person. I don't think I've ever seen you not being positive, not having a smile on your face, not having something positive to say, not feeling good. Positivity and confidence, of course, can go hand in hand, but they're not always the same thing. How, and I bet it would be challenging to have that positivity day to day on daily basis. How do you find space within yourself to cultivate that positivity?
So every day is a blessing. So I think what you need to do in my situation, I have days where I'm down. I'm not saying every day is perfect. But I also have to remember what I call my blessings around me, my family, my friends, my career, where I live, and so on, and those around me. And that really helps bring me out and continue with the positivity. It's really easy to get pulled down to that black hole of depression. And sometimes it's really hard to climb out of it. I made the conscious decision about a year ago to stay away from that black hole. And when I start falling down it, stop, remember how well I've done on my life's journey and those around me. And there's really no reason for it. So to instill and continue that confidence, again, remember what's around you, remember the life that you have ahead of you and your future and who you are, and be true to yourself. And that will help with that as well.
It sounds like a year ago you made a commitment to yourself. Like that's it. I'm making commitment to myself. I'm no longer putting myself behind. I think a lot of people, when they carry gender dysphoria and they're not doing anything about it, what they inevitably also doing is they're putting themselves aside, right? They're almost like they're shelving themselves. They're not really paying attention to themselves. They're not having a relationship with themselves. Right. And they're so hyper-focused on appeasing and making everybody else around them comfortable, and so worried about everybody else's ideas about transness, everybody's ideas about the gender issues. And as a result, people don't tend to come out, right? So I always encourage people to try to put yourself first. And it seems like a year ago, that's when you said, that's it. I'm putting my foot down. I'm putting myself first. I need to start caring for myself.
So it's a great point. And that was a huge part of my evolution. So, again, the coming out was hard, but I did it. And the physical transformation, the surgeries, I did it. But what I tended to do, and I think a lot of in the trans community, trans women, trans men tend to do, and I absolutely did in my cases, when I transitioned, my old life was gone. We tend to refer as your dead name and who you were. And I kept suppressing that, and all the pictures I had were either deleted or removed and so on. But I liked parts of me before when I was male, before I transitioned. There's things I like doing. I like working on cars, but I also like putting makeup on and going out in the town. So for me, I made the decision in the fall of last year to incorporate my life as one life. And I think for me in my process, part of the healing of who I was to accept who I had been, who I am, and call it my life, my journey. Who I was before, who I am today. I just look different. My name has changed. I sound a little different, but I'm in the core, I'm still the same person. And being able as myself to incorporate my entire life as me was able for me to fully heal from, before my transition and who I am now. I'm proud of who I was before, and I am very proud of who I am today. And I love talking about who I have been. My core, I'm still the same person. That has never changed. And I think to embrace your entire life, for me, it was a part of my healing process. I never call it my dead name anymore. I call it my prior name, just like anyone would be if they changed their name when they were married or whatever they did. It's my prior name. It's who I was before. It's what I looked like before. But it's my entire life as Michelle Cirar.
I love hearing that. I think that the emergence, what I call is the merge between the past and the present, is so important. And I talk about it constantly. So I'm glad to hear you did that. Now, you are a very proud parent of two, right? You have two children?
I have two boys I'm very proud of. One lives a little far from me, a few miles, and the other one's currently in med school on the East Coast. I also have two grandkids as well. that I absolutely love and get to see every so often. But yes, I'm a proud parent of two and two grands as well.
So how old are your children, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. My oldest is 33. My youngest is 28. My grandkids are 9 and will be 7 at the end of the month.
That's amazing. Now, in terms of your own gender evolution, have you found in any ways that that evolution has informed in the way you tend to parent now?
You know, it's a great question, Dr. Z. So the way I look at it is I fathered my children. I am not their mother. I think that works for some that transition early and adopt children and they need a parent figure as a mother, and that's fine. But in my situation, you know, I'm dad. My kids are the only two that get to use my prior pronouns, and my grandkids as well. And I absolutely love that. I'm absolutely fine with that. My parenting hasn't changed. I'm still what you would say a typical dad, even though I look like this. And I love that. I'm always making sure things get done and so on. But no, it has not changed the way I parent, the way I present as a parent.
Was there any challenges at all back then when you came out to your kids? Because your kids were already adults, and it can be very different coming out to adults versus coming out when the kids are very young. Was there any challenges at all that you experienced?
You know, that's a great question. My youngest, when I told him, embraced me and was so thrilled I was still here. And his first comment was, I have lesbian, gay, and trans friends. What's the point? What's the issue? So of course I have no problem with it. And he's been nothing but supportive. The nice thing with him being in med school, he's actually helped me on upcoming surgery that I've had and so on. So he's been nothing but supportive. My oldest and my daughter-in-law, same as well. The comment that was made to me, which touched my heart so well, was I came out right before Christmas of 2018. And I said to them, if you're comfortable with me having it at your house, I can certainly not attend. I'm totally fine with that. And my son's comment was, if somebody has an issue with you, they can leave, but you will be there. So nothing but love and support, and my grandkids as well. You know, occasionally they get the gender wrong, but they're kids. That's okay. It's not deliberate, but they've been nothing but amazing as well.
Oh my God, I'm so happy for you. That's an incredible story. And I bet when you were coming out to your kids, there was an apprehension and fear. Like you said, coming out was one of your biggest challenges, right? What was the biggest fear when you were coming out to your kids for you personally?
So for me, it was losing people that I wanted to continue to have in my life. Now, for those that I was not close to, if you decided not to go along with me, that's okay. But for people like my kids and grandkids, they're an incredibly important part of my life, and I wanted that to continue as well. So that was a very relieving part for me for the acceptance on their end, and it was full and immediate acceptance for me to continue with my journey. For extended family that I came out with, I don't see them that often, but again, I came out to them as well, kind of a progression of order of how I did it. And again, nothing but love and support. But again, for me, it was the people that were important to me in my life. I wanted to make sure they were still going to be there. I can't imagine not being able to see my kids or grandkids. And luckily, I've continued that growth and development, and have fun with them and chat with them. And again, that was the biggest part of my concern when I was coming out.
For people who are watching this, who have not come out to their children yet, do you have any wisdom, any piece of advice on how to potentially approach it, how to do it? People always ask me this, how to do it, when is the right time, when is the right moment? What are your 2 cents on this?
So there's no right moment. It's like when you have kids, when's the right moment? You just kind of do it. So you really have to, you need to have their attention, not they're passing by and you tell them. You need to have a sit down, serious conversation with them. Everyone that I was close to, I had a one-on-one with. So the way, in my opinion, there's no right time. You just have to do it. I think generationally, things have changed. I think the current generation, those mid-30s and under, are more accepting. Saying that, at a recent gathering I had this weekend with aunts and uncles in their 80s, same thing, fully acceptance, no, didn't even blink, and had a wonderful time. So I think kids are more accepting. Small children typically don't identify gender with a person, so they're even easier. You just look a little different, maybe your hair's longer, but again, I'm still popping in my grandkids, so nothing really changed there. So I think it just depends on who your audience is and who you need to come out with. Again, as myself, I was overwhelmingly pleasantly surprised at how many people were accepting. Maybe I was lucky. Maybe I just been close to the people and they knew me, but I think you just have to come out when it's right for you. It's your story to tell when you want to tell it. It's your timeline, and hopefully everyone's accepting. Everyone's going to be different, and you have to go into it knowing that can happen. Um, but quite honestly, again, to survive, what choice do you have?
Yeah, I agree. In terms of your own personal experiences, looking back now at the whole concept of parenting, right? Do you think there is such thing as gender to parenting? Is parenting gender specific? In other words, is there such thing as really fathering or mothering children? Or is there
I
just
think
parenting?
absolutely. I think in the traditional world there is, and a traditional male father, woman, mother, there is. I mean, there typically is, and I'm not talking old school, but there is just the way fathers typically are. It's this way, and that's what you will do. And mothers tend to raise their voice to get things done. So I think there definitely is, from a parenting standpoint. But there's a lot of single parented families out there. From that perspective, they tend to run both roles. So I think it can be different, but again, it depends on the relationship of the parenting structure. From a gender transition standpoint, I don't think it has any bearing. I think you are who you are. You parent how you parent. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. That's how you're going to parent. I don't personally think that changes when you transition. To transition from male to female, I'm not going to become mom. I'm not going to be in the motherly role because that's not who I am. Again, you have to be authentic to yourself, both in how you present as your gender and how you are with your children.
Great. Now, I have a question for you that is not on a list of the questions that we were exploring, and feel free to tell me you're not going to go there. The question is about relationship. Are you currently in relationship? And if you can share a little bit more about your relationship, if you are in one.
Certainly. So I am in a relationship with a cisgender woman. We met a little over 2 years ago through a group support site of all places, and really hit it off day one. She has been my partner, my love, my confidant since really day one. Has been there for every surgery that I've had, and has been nothing but amazing and supportive. So I do have a partner. She has kids as well. Again, nothing but supportive and fun. Yeah, I am in a relationship and absolutely love it.
Great. Congratulations. By the way, I always love hearing about people being in a relationship because relationships used to be so important to us as individuals. For people who are watching, and you know this, a lot of people, one of their other biggest fear is relationships, or actually fear of not being able to get a relationship, especially once people do transition. Do you have any kind of wisdom you can share on that fear?
So a little bit of my backstory. I was married before I transitioned for quite some time. Coming out did not cause our marriage to end. I think there were some other underlying issues, but from a marriage standpoint and a prior, and an ex standpoint, my ex has been nothing but amazing and supportive, truly amazing and supportive. I think from a marriage standpoint, as long as that's, or relationship standpoint, as long as that relationship is solid, I think it will continue post-transition or when you begin your transition. I think any ones that are shaky, I think it tends to shake it. And I don't think it's the transition that does it. Maybe it's kind of the nudge. But I really believe that if you have a strong relationship, whether you're in a domestic relationship or a marital relationship, I think personally that will continue. It just depends on how you are when you go into it.
I think that's very true. I actually talk about this quite a bit often too. I call it traction, right? What's your emotional traction prior to transition? And that's actually defines quite a bit what's going to happen for a lot of people. And a lot of people, I think, don't want to acknowledge for some reason that the relationship falls apart, not because they came out. Coming out may have been just, maybe a reason for a partner just to say, okay, here's, an opportunity to really end it. But there's usually some kind of water under the bridge that is not being addressed. So yeah, I completely agree with that. Now, you are on your social media, seem to be very open and very transparent about yourself being as a trans woman, and you're very proud of being a transgender woman. Let's talk a little bit about that acceptance of yourself, that ability to carry that pride, and not being so eager to, what a lot of people sometimes tend to do is go stealth, which is, presenting as women, which is nothing wrong with that. It's a personal choice. But for you, it seems to be you're very comfortable with yourself and you carry that with a lot of pride. Tell me a little bit more about that acceptance of your inner self. How did it come around? And did you always had it from beginning of transition?
So I didn't have, well, when I began my transition, there's a lot of, I went around presenting, will I get misgender, which of course I did at the beginning. My voice was deeper. I looked, before I had my face FFS done and so on. So there's a lot of that, and you have to be really careful out there. From a confidence standpoint, it built over time, but it built rather quickly. I think a cross between coming out, the hormones for me really caused clarity, really lifted the cloud. And having the acceptance of family, friends, coworkers, and so on, really rapidly increased and pushed my confidence. From coming out in November of 18 to finally coming out to everybody in January, I think that was the period where the confidence wasn't weighing, it just was still building. Mm-hmm. From when I finally finished coming out to everyone, and that was behind me, because before you're done doing that, you don't know how to identify yourself. So once that was done, the confidence really took off from there. I've never had any concerns or questions with myself as identity since I came out, and my confidence has just continued to build stronger and stronger each day.
It seems like that identity is something you embraced and had no problem with from the beginning, and that's what helped you to carry that pride to this day, right? So it seems like for the viewers who are watching this and who are struggling with that, I know a lot of people who have already transitioned and have achieved all of their goals and yet still struggle with that acceptance of themselves. What would be a piece of advice other than really embrace your full self? Is there any piece of advice in terms of how to cultivate that, even on a small incremental levels?
So I would say to cultivate your confidence in yourself, continue with your journey. If you're absolutely confident of who you really are, be authentic to yourself, stay the course, stay firm. It absolutely is difficult at the beginning. There's no question about that. But anything in life is difficult at the beginning. If you continue with that course, continue staying true and authentic to yourself, that confidence will build over time. Absolutely will do that. And the unhappiness and the lack of clarity that you had before you transition, that will fade pretty quickly as well. So just stay true, and and that confidence will build.
Thank you. For your gender transition, you already said that one of the biggest challenges was coming out. And it seems to be that was also your biggest fear. Apart from that, what would you say was your secondary challenge, biggest challenge that you had to face while you were going through your evolution?
Gosh, really nothing other than coming out in my case. Surgeries were just something I had to do. And that was, you're a little nervous the day of, but other than that, they were just kind of once and done and happy afterwards. And name changing and so on was a lot of paperwork. But again, that was not concerning. So quite frankly, the only thing that was really hard to do in the process, I mean, when I say hard and difficult from a mental standpoint, it was really coming out. The rest are just the mechanics of it. Buying a new wardrobe, changing your name from a documentation standpoint and so on, and the surgeries, of course. But really for me, it was just coming out. That was really the most difficult part of it.
I'm so glad to hear that. Hopefully for the viewers, that's going to be a sense of hope and optimism watching this, that it does not have to be challenges after challenges for a lot of people. For some, there are numerous challenges. And for others, such as yourself, there seems to be this one mental challenge of coming out. And after that, it seems like you just kind of took reins of your gender evolution and you just ran with it. In terms of your rewards, right? Your biggest, you would say, not necessarily reward. I think reward maybe is not the right way to describe it, but what do you think was your biggest positive takeaway that you got out of your gender evolution that has been the most uplifting for you personally?
My most uplifting part of my journey has really been coming out and owning who I am and the transition itself. Most rewarding for me is I officially declared my transition over in the spring of this year. It was very nice to do that. There was no specific date. I just picked my biological birthday. It seemed right. Surgeries were done. Those were behind me. And it was very nice to go, my transition is done. I am Michelle, and I'm going to go on with the rest of my life. Up until that point, there was just things going on, like with surgeries, getting things done and so on. But with that behind me, it was really nice and very rewarding to myself to declare that officially over. And I am just a woman living life and going through the motions that everybody else does.
It's nice sometimes to close a chapter on that book,
It is.
knowing that it's still there, but it's nice to have a sense of completion.
Absolutely.
Let's talk your style for a change. Okay. So another thing that always struck me about is your amazing style. And I call it Rockstar Style. I don't know if you're going to agree, but it seems to be a little bit, I would call it edgy and very modern and very fashion forward. How do you describe your personal style?
Gosh, I would say I try to be modern and current. You know, and I really, what I've done is I'm doing really what I wanted to do all my life. So I had long hair before I transitioned, not this long, but I had long hair as well. I would say my style is appropriate and current. It wasn't that way at the beginning when I transitioned. I think what you tend to do is wear all the things you always wanted to wear if you got the chance to be a woman in my case. So you tend to wear things that are really inappropriate for your age.
How did you know it was? So you think it was inappropriate looking back, and in a moment of it,
Looking
did you
back, there were
know?
things, yeah, because you don't know. No, there's nobody there to show you, right?
Mhm.
So I don't have a sister. I don't really have anybody to kind of show me the ropes. So you kind of have to figure it out on your own. My parents are gone, so I didn't have a mom to kind of walk me through it. So you kind of have to guess what's right and what's wrong. My partner, my girlfriend, has been incredibly amazing and very nice as well. She never says, don't wear that. She'll say, maybe let's try this. So I think that's helped as well. From a style standpoint that developed over time of what's appropriate to wear out, to the supermarket or to work or, anywhere you might be. And that comes over time. I think you have a lot of pent up desires before you transition. And when you do transition, you tend to wear the things that may or may not be age appropriate depending on when you transition. But then after some time, you do settle into what's appropriate and really what looks good on you for your age, for the way you present yourself. And that's really what I've done here. And from a hair standpoint, from a makeup standpoint, clothing that I wear, I think it's appropriate for me at my age.
Okay, now I'm dying to know what exactly you saw as inappropriate.
So,
Do you want to share a little more?
when you're wearing fishnet stockings and leather skirts, that's probably not the right thing to wear to work. So it's just inappropriate for my age. You want a club or something like that, I think it's fine. Nobody ever said anything, but now that I look back at some of the prior pictures, I'm not embarrassed by them, but I kind of laugh going, thank God that's behind me. And I'm who I am now and how I present. I mean, I'm in my typical, office attire that I wear to the office every day. So just things that just you look back on and go, I went out of the house like that.
Oh my God, such a great testament, to positive outlook, to be able to look back and not regret or berate yourself for those decisions, right? To be able to look back and say that, oh my God, I'm glad this period is over. For the record, I have never seen you in anything inappropriate. To me, you always had a great style, but maybe I missed the gap of that period in your life. For people who are starting transition, it can be, I bet, very challenging to cultivate a sense of style, right? Especially with people who are doing it maybe a little bit later in their life. It can be really hard. You don't have anybody around you. You haven't learned that sense of how to really maybe, like you said, appropriate, of what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, where to wear things, how to wear things. Looking back and thinking about your sense of style now, what advice would you give you earlier self on the journey?
So it's a really good question. And looking back on past 3 years and really at the beginning is the thing that you want to do from a fashion standpoint, in my opinion, is really don't stand out. You probably already may stand out a little bit if you haven't had, in my case, the FFS done and so on, if your voice is deep. So you really want to blend in. You want to wear things that are typical that if you're a transgender woman, that are appropriate for your age, appropriate for you. I mean, if it's a conservative dress to work and a coat, that's what you wear. If it's jeans and a top, that's what you wear. But you want to wear something where you tend to not say look like the average person going down the street, but you don't want to stand out. You want to kind of blend in, both from a makeup standpoint, a hair standpoint, and a clothing standpoint. You don't want to wear 6-inch stilettos to work because nobody does.
Depending on what you do.
Depending on what you are, that's true. You know, you want to wear really what everybody else does, age appropriate for you. And then looking back, that's what I should have done. What was age appropriate for me and where I was at the time, whether I'm going to a club, maybe wear something that's above the knee, going to the office, maybe wear something that's below the knee. If you're out going to the market, it's jeans and a top and some sandals. I mean, you just wear what's appropriate for you and your age, so you really don't stand out. As you progress over time, you'll start to identify really what your fashion is, what's appropriate for you. Everyone's different. But I think looking back, there's things that I did that I would never do in today's world. And it's not that long ago. It's not that the fashion has changed. It's that I have changed and evolved in my fashion.
I hope you have pictures to keep for yourself as a record,
I
because I think
do.
those make up sometimes the best memories.
I look at some of those and they're hilarious.
Do you think style is something one just has, or do you think style is something that one can actually develop over time?
For a person that has zero fashion sense, I think it develops over time. You know, clothing, I rarely wear what's appropriate. My stylist that does my hair is amazing. She's been there, but she's been with me before my transition, during and after, and takes care of me. So I think it builds over time. And I think knowing people that help you identify really what you should wear from a fashion standpoint helps as well. My partner has been nothing but amazing on picking outfits out with me and saying, why don't you wear that with this and so on. And I think that really helps. I think having someone that has, like she does, with really good fashion sense, does help, you know, steer you, because a lot of it is just trying to guess on your own. There's no place that I ever found where you can go in that says, I'm transgender, I'm this age, I'm in this profession, what should I wear? So you really have to find your fashion, both that's appropriate for you and any friends or family that you have that's supportive. If you're younger and your parents are around, hopefully you've got a mother that's supportive and then is able to accept you as their daughter and help you with that, with any mother would with their daughter. In my case, my parents have been gone for quite some time, so I didn't have that ability. So really having someone that's supportive with you to help kind of show you what to wear and what's appropriate for you from a fashion standpoint.
And also not to forget to mention that not all cis women have a great sense of style or great sense of fashion, and can also and do wear inappropriate things or things that just don't really, let's say, showcase their best assets.
This is true. Everyone's, you know, everyone's unique. I think, as I said earlier, being transgender and already looking a little different, you don't, for me, being misgendered was like a knife to the heart. It was very hurtful. I've been chased, I've been attacked, I've been yelled at. I've had a lot that's happened to me. It hasn't happened since I've evolved and gone through my surgeries and altered my voice and such, but it's really scary. So from a fashion standpoint, I think it's important to just kind of blend in. I'm not saying look like everybody else, but just wear something that's appropriate.
Yeah, and also in the beginning stages, it seems that it's just prudent advice from a safety standpoint, especially depending where you reside.
Absolutely. Just keep aware of your surroundings. I am more aware of my surroundings than I have been before. Being a woman has changed the way my attitude is against people out there. I had never been chased or attacked before. You know, once I transitioned, that had changed. Was it bad timing? Was I in the wrong place? Literally going to work, so I don't know. But just be aware of your surroundings, like just common sense that you would tell anyone.
Yeah. Now, looking back, was there a period in your style setting where you just spent lots of money on lots of clothing? Did you go through that phase in the beginning of figuring out your style and your sense of fashion sense?
I really didn't have an initial fashion guideline. My ex at the time, or partner at the time, who's now my ex, gave me some suggestions because we're around the same age and some outfits to wear and so on. But really, it was really me looking to see what I wanted to wear, what was appropriate. To the office, I didn't wear anything that was appropriate. It was, you know, cloth or plaid skirt, whatever it may be, a nice top and heels or shoes. So I was okay there initially, but again, it evolves over time.
You don't strike me as a person that carries regrets, but I'm still going to ask if you actually carry any regrets.
No, other than, no, I don't. I don't want to say I have any regrets. And I've been saying that for quite some time. I don't have any regrets in my life. I don't have any regrets that I transitioned later in life because there was a purpose for my life before. Um, I don't regret my prior life. I'm very proud of it. I don't regret that I transitioned late in life. I think it was appropriate at the time. And I don't regret any decisions I've made. I think they're appropriate. I'm very happy with those. Maybe I'm one of the few that doesn't have any regrets, but no, I'm very happy in my course, my decisions that I made, and where I ended up.
Now, right now, where are you at in your life? What are you looking for the most right now?
Just continuing life. With my transition being over and being in a wonderful relationship, I think, like everybody else, I'm looking at a post-COVID world, trying to get that behind us so we can go on vacations and do things like that. And really, that's it. I think I see life like anybody else that walks down the street. When I see anybody else who meets cisgender, I am a person like anybody else. I get dressed like everybody else, breathe the same air as everyone. And really, I'm looking at the same thing everyone does. When do I need to go to the market? When am I going to the office? And really, when do I get to go on a trip? And like anybody else, so it's really no different. I see life like anybody else.
Are you planning to go on a trip?
I'd love to go to Hawaii. That's kind of like my second home. Right now with COVID and mask requirements and so on, I think that's on hold for a little bit. But yeah, I would love to go back home.
Oh, well, thank you so very much for being part of the interview. I'm so pleased and so happy to have you on here. It is such a pleasure. I really appreciate you devoting some time to sit down with me and go through rehashing some of your life and going over some of the things you had to overcome and some of the things that you didn't have to overcome that worked out in your favor. Thank you, Michelle, so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Z. It's been my absolute pleasure to meet with you and discuss my transition. And again, for all those viewers that are out there, thank you so much for your time as well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.